Marcus Byrne came to Washington, D.C., brimming with ambition and wonder. Newly graduated, he'd landed an internship helping with archival research for a congressional subcommittee. The marble splendor of the city appeared to vibrate with history, each corner having old secrets to share, each monument sending long shadows back into the past. He took a room in a worn row house a block north of Lafayette Square, within walking distance of the White House. The area was peaceful at night, the kind of place where the soft yellow glow of lamps cut out silhouettes across the wrought iron fences. But under that tranquility, there was tension to the air, a stillness that was watchful. Locals informed him, half seriously, that the Capitol itself was haunted. They described a ghostly black cat that would appear before national calamities, the ghostly voice of deceased congressmen still arguing bills in deserted halls, an unseen watchman who roamed the rotunda when the building should have been quiet. Marcus dismissed it at first as mere joking. But even he sensed that the city's past was too profound to ever truly rest. Marcus tended to work late in the Capitol records, where the smell of dust and old paper appeared to blend with the subtle bite of ozone from the fluorescent lights flickering overhead. One evening, researching files pertaining to the early 20th century infrastructure, he read a yellowed report on the 1906 train crash outside the Terracotta Station in Brooklyn. The report spoke of unmarked graves, bodies commingled, remnants still disturbed. He furrowed his brow, curious. The hand on the report had shaken, as if the writer had penned it quickly, or in fear. Through the high window to his left, the lights of the Capitol dome glowed like a guardian eye. Leaving the records well after midnight, Marcus proceeded on foot through deserted streets. A clammy coolness clung to the Potomac. Passing Lafayette Square, the park lay ghostly quiet. The fountains ceased to run, and the trees were motionless. Something moved in the shadows. From the pedestal at the base of the Andrew Jackson statue, a figure emerged, tall, stiff, man-shaped. For a fraction of a second, Marcus saw its form sharply, the form of a man cut from the emptiness itself. Then, in an instant, it was not. He was sure it was exhaustion. Long hours, excessive caffeine, too many scary stories. But as he stretched out in bed that evening, sleep eluded him. In some corner of the creaky old house, a steady dripping resonated through the quiet. Drip, drip, drip. The cadence was off, too regular, too intentional. It wasn't water. It seemed almost like footsteps walking the ceiling overhead. At 3:14 a.m. exactly, the house thundered with a thump. Marcus sat up straight. Someone or something had closed a door with force. He waited. The sound came again, soft creaks, a whisper of movement from below. He occupied the top floor, and his downstairs neighbor took night shifts. The building should be deserted. Marcus picked up his phone and activated the flashlight. The beam shook as he moved stealthily down the hall. The faded wallpaper curled at the edges. The air had a mild smell of dampness. He checked on the stair landing and noticed his room door, locked before he went to bed, now open. A shiver of cold air caressed his neck. Downstairs, faint footprints lined the dusty floorboards, from the front door to the back of the house. The path ended at the basement door. It was slightly ajar. Marcus paused. Then, very slowly, he leaned forward. There, on the bottom step, was a face, pale, long. Its eyes, two empty pits, looked directly at him. The figure stood, its limbs jerky, its voice scratching in the dark like the scab of dry leaves. Marcus. He backed away, heart racing, and sprinted to his room. The door slammed shut, the lock clicked, and he stood with his back against the wall as the whisper crept up, a soft murmur of pleading. Marcus, don't leave. He lay awake until morning, clutching his phone, waiting for the dawn to erode the night. Throughout the ensuing days, Marcus attempted to put the memory below his work. But the city itself seemed to be conspiring against him. As he scanned 19th century Capitol security logs, he saw similar entries in the night watchman's diaries, heard weeping in East Corridor. Nobody located. Unusual lights flashing outside rotunda, crying in vacant chamber. The handwriting was different, but the stories were similar. The Capitol, it appeared, never slept. Marcus took the Senate side door one night and walked across the empty plaza. The marble shone in moonlight. A faint meow drifted somewhere close by. He glanced around. A huge black cat perched atop the stairs, bigger than any cat should be, its coat smooth as darkness. Its eyes flashed red for a moment before it disappeared through the stone. A shiver coursed down his spine. He recalled the myth spread by Capitol guards, the demon cat, whose sighting predicted doom. Presidents were rumored to have glimpsed it before disaster. Marcus quickly escaped, his heart beating out the rhythm of ghostly paws. To the sound again that night, Marcus awoke. He slightly parted the blinds. Below, the street was quiet. Then, gradually, men and women in out-of-date clothing appeared, standing there beneath the faint streetlight. Their faces were white, indistinct at the edges, like poorly focused photos. They stood quietly, looking up at his window. Then a man from among them, an older man in a black topcoat, raised a shaking hand and pointed straight at him. Marcus gasped and stepped back from the window. When he gazed again, the street was empty. He bagged a bag and ran to a friend's apartment in Adams Morgan, but even there the nightmares pursued. He dreamed of infinite corridors lined with portraits whose eyes bled shadow, of the black cat stalking the rotunda, of the creaking basement door opening onto a stairway that went on forever. He awoke soaked in sweat. The city had accompanied him into sleep. 7 days later, Marcus went back to the row house to collect the remaining belongings. The morning sun warmed the brick face almost to safety, almost warm again. But the moment he entered, the cold crept in. Dust motes drifted on shafts of cold light. The air was stale, heavy. He ascended the stairs cautiously. The floorboards creaked under his feet. Then, a door slammed behind him. Marcus slowly turned around. The figure stood in the hall, as white as moonlight, tall and lean, its face a mask, its lips shut tight. And yet there came a sound from it, a low, steady moan that shook through the walls. The air around Marcus distorted, like the heat over asphalt. He fell away from it, but the figure stepped closer, each movement slow and abnormal. He made it to the front door, flung it open, and ran into the street. The noise followed, ringing, climbing, then abruptly cutting off as quickly as it had started. Marcus ran all the way to Lafayette Square. There, among the iron statues and silent trees, he believed he heard laughter, distant, faint, like an echo out of another century. He recalled reading of duels once engaged in the park, men bleeding under these very trees. Their ghosts, perhaps, still haunted. He didn't linger to discover. Marcus departed Washington, D.C. the following morning. The train bore him off from the Capitol dome, a golden jewel shining in the early light. He vowed he'd never come back. And yet, even far away from the city, the recollection stuck with him. In still hotel rooms, he'd wake to that same dripping cadence. In dark window panes, he'd catch a glimpse of himself, and, superimposed behind it, another face. Years went by. He attempted to convince himself the occurrences were dreams, stress, hallucination. But whenever the news had report of national tragedy, Marcus would remember the demon cat's glowing eyes, the sound of footsteps in the Capitol, the white figure whispering his name. He couldn't help but wonder if the creature in the basement had shadowed him, not as a ghost relegated to place, but as a shadow attached to memory. Washington, D.C. brims with flags and marble, but hidden beneath its monuments is a darker base. Below each memorial and historic row house are stacks of the deceased, the slaves who constructed the city, the soldiers who protected it, the citizens who disappeared into its back streets and were never discovered. Marcus had only caught a glimpse of what most do not wish to see. Late at night, the Capitol continues to shine. The dome of the rotunda almost appears to be breathing. Guards talk of ghostly footsteps ringing through the floors, of whispers wafting through the ancient stone corridors, and occasionally, when the air is quiet and the streets are deserted, a black cat with ember eyes walks quietly over the mall, its shadow long, its weight heavy. Its observers do not talk. They only know that something in Washington has stirred again. Epilogue: Marcus never came back to the row house. It was torn down years afterward to be replaced by an apartment complex. Construction workers uncovered several unmarked graves under the foundation during construction. Skeletal remains went as far back as the 19th century. City officials credited them to neglected laborers from earlier government projects. But there was one worker who vowed that as they broke through the last layer of dirt, a blast of frigid air swirled out of the pit, with a faint whisper, just a single word, blown on the wind: Marcus. To this day, Residents insist the new structure hums quietly at night, and that the lights sometimes flash at 3:14 a.m. exactly. Washington, D.C. is a city of power and law, but underlying its order is a hidden truth. Some histories won't remain buried.